Dear friends, from 1/7/2021, new TDS and TCS provisions have been attracted. There are few sections which are now binding us to include the TDS provision in the purchase and sale of goods. There is one section 194Q 2061H. One section we need to look at is 206AA. Another is 206AB. Third is again 206CC and 206CCA. And few of these sections are telling TDS needs to be deducted, few of these sections are telling TCS needs to be collected, and few of the sections are discussing the rate at which the TDS or TCS are to be collected on the purchase or sale of goods. We'll try to understand in a very non-technical language that what is to be done at what moment. Let's see. First of all, there is going to happen sale of goods. With every sale, there is always a purchase. So if the goods are sold, I'm only restricting my entire discussion only on the goods. I'm not discussing services momentarily. And goods also, those goods on which specific TCS provisions are not attracted, like coal, like scrap, like motor vehicles above 10 lakhs. I'm not discussing those kind of goods, the general goods, other than those for which the TCS provisions have specifically been talked of. If there happens sale of goods, we need to check whether the seller's turnover in the preceding year is above 10 crores or not. If it is above 10 crore, in that scenario, TCS provisions might get attracted. So we'll first of all see, if I am the seller, I need to check for myself whether my turnover in the preceding year is exceeding 10 crores or not. And if it is exceeding, I have to check, if I am a seller, that whether the turnover of my purchaser, whosoever is purchasing the goods from me, whether his turnover is more than 10 crores or not. I'll have to ask from each of the respective purchaser whether their turnover is above 10 crore or below 10 crore. And if it is above 10 crore, if my turnover is more than 10 crore and my purchaser's turnover is also more than 10 crore, in that scenario, I'll have to check whether my purchaser, whosoever has purchased the goods from me, whether his total purchase from me has exceeded 50 lakhs or not. So if my purchaser's turnover is above 10 crore and if he has purchased from me goods more than 50 lakhs, under such scenario, the TDS is to be deducted by my purchaser. He will be deducting TDS from myself and depositing it to the exchequer, to the government. So TDS provision will attract in a scenario wherein the seller's turnover is more than 10 crore and purchaser's turnover is also more than 10 crore, and the purchaser is buying the goods from a respective seller for more than 50 lakhs. Under such scenario, TDS will be deducted by the purchaser. Now, what if when the purchase is not exceeding 50 lakhs, I have sold to a particular, my turnover is more than 10 crore, I have sold the goods to a purchaser whose turnover is more than 10 crore, but they have not purchased from myself more than 50 lakh rupees of goods. Under such scenario, there will be no TDS. Under rare scenario, TCS has to be collected momentarily I am not discussing. That I'll be discussing in my next theoretical discussions on the similar topic. Next scenario is, I am selling the goods, my turnover is more than 10 crore and my purchases turnover in the preceding year is less than 10 crore. What has to be done under such scenario? Under such scenario, again I'll be checking whether my total receipt from the respective purchaser during the financial year is more than 50 lakhs or not. If it is exceeding 50 lakhs, my total receipt from that particular customer, I'm not going to check my sales, I'm going to check my receipt, my total receipt from that particular customer. If it is exceeding 50 lakhs rupees, under such scenario, I have to collect additional TCS from my purchaser and deposit it to the government, and that amount will come in the 26 AS of my purchaser. And suppose my receipt from that particular customer is less than 50 lakhs, in that particular case there will be no TDS and there will be no TCS. I hope we are clear on the portion. I had till now only discussed wherein a sale is happening and the seller's turnover is more than 10 crores. Now let's come to the other part, where a sale is happening but the seller's turnover is below 10 crores. If the seller turnover is below 10 crore, in such scenario, we need to check that the purchaser's turnover again, whether it is higher than 10 crore or lower than 10 crore. If the purchaser's turnover is higher than 10 crore, we are discussing a scenario, I am a seller, my turnover in the preceding year is less than 10 crores, but my purchaser's turnover in the preceding year is more than 10 crore. Under such scenario, again I'll have to check that whether the purchaser is purchasing more than 50 lakhs of goods or making payment to me for more than 50 lakhs. Under such scenario, TDS will again be deducted by the purchaser. So we can conclude that when the TDS provisions gets attracted, whenever the purchaser's turnover is more than 10 crores and the respective purchase value from a respective seller is of more than 50 lakhs, the TDS provisions get attracted. Let's discuss a separate scenario. I'm a seller, my turnover in the preceding year is less than 10 crore. The purchaser's turnover in the preceding year is more than 10 crores and my purchaser has made a purchase from myself or made a payment to myself not exceeding 50 lakhs. Under such scenario, my purchaser will not deduct my TDS. Next scenario can be, I am making a sale, my total turnover is less than 10 crore in the preceding year and even my purchaser's turnover is less than 10 crores in the preceding year. I feel in this scenario, a transaction is happening between the poor person and the poor person. In such case, there will be no TDS and there will be no TCS also. Now, let's again summarize what we have discussed once again, that whatever we are discussing, we are restricting ourselves to the turnover of the goods, purchase and sale of goods effective from 1st of July 2021. There are certain cases wherein the TDS needs to be deducted. There are certain cases wherein the TCS needs to be collected, and there are few cases wherein no TDS or TCS provisions gets attracted. Let's see the first scenario. wherein the buyer's turnover in the preceding year is more than 10 crore, seller's turnover in the preceding year is more than 10 crore. In such case, the TDS has to be deducted by the buyer. In a rare scenario, TCS provision may get attracted, that I will be discussing in my later sessions. Who will deduct TDS? TDS is always deducted by the buyer or purchaser when the total purchase value or the payment value exceeds 50 lakhs rupees. Second scenario, the buyer's turnover is more than 10 crore and the seller's turnover is less than 10 crore. Under this scenario also, TDS needs to be deducted. Who will deduct the TDS? The buyer will deduct the TDS from seller, deposit it to the government, and the government, ultimately it will be shown in the 26AS of the person for whom I have deducted the TDS. Third scenario can be the buyer's turnover is less than 10 crore and the seller's turnover is more than 10 crore. Under such scenario, the seller is supposed to collect the amount from the buyer and deposit it to the government. Such amount will come in the 26AS of the buyer. Who is going to collect it? For sure, the seller is going to collect when the total receipt by the seller from the respective buyer exceeds 50 lakhs during the financial year in which we are supposed to collect the TCS. The last scenario is buyer's turnover is also less than 10 crore and the seller's turnover is also less than 10 crore. I've already told this is a poor man's transaction between two poor people, no TDS and no TCS. Friends, by now we have discussed when the TDS needs to be deducted and when TCS needs to be collected in case of sale or purchase of goods. Which goods? Other than the goods which have been specifically dealt in section 206, like alcohol, like scrap, like coal, like motor vehicles above 10 lakhs. There are few list of items. Apart from that, whatever goods are there, we are discussing only those goods. Now the question comes, at what rate the TDS is to be deducted or at what rate TCS needs to be collected? Let's come to that. My first answer of the TDS rate or TCS rate shall be 0.1%, but it can be different also under different scenarios. Let's come to that particular part of discussion. The TDS rate which is to be deducted by the purchaser has to be seen whether the purchaser has the PAN of the seller. If they have the PAN of the seller, in such case they'll have to check whether the seller is a specified person or not a specified person. Now we need to look at what does specified person means. Specified person simply means a non-compliant assessee in the eyes of income tax. A person who does not file his return. Maybe he has taken the PAN but is not filing his return properly. That kind of non-compliant is called as a specified person, and technically speaking, non-specified persons are the compliant persons in the eyes of income tax. Technically speaking, specified person means a person who has not filed his return of income in immediately preceding 2 years for which the due date of filing of the return has expired. So if a particular person has not filed his income tax returns for immediately 2 preceding years for which the due date has elapsed, and his total TDS and TCS collection, means whatever amount is showing in his 26 years, if that amount is more than 50,000 rupees in each of those 2 preceding financial years for which he has not filed the return, under such scenario he shall be called as non-compliant person, or technically speaking specified person. For such specified person, the TDS rate shall be 5%. How 5%? I'll just discuss. For normal, compliant dealers, for normal compliant assessees who are not a specified person, the rate is 0.1%. As I said, the normal rate of TDS and TCS for the purchase and sale of goods is 0.1%. But if you find somebody to be non-compliant, irrespective of having PAN, not filing their returns properly, and their total TDS TCS amount being collected above 50,000 for both of the preceding 2 years, in such scenario it will be 5%. And if the PAN, if I am a purchaser, I want to deduct TDS and I am not having the PAN of the seller, in that particular case I have to compulsory deduct as 5%. Now, how is this 5% coming? This 5%, the provisions of the Act states that it has to be higher of twice the rate. So what is the normal rate? Specifically in case of purchase sale of goods, it is 0.1%. Twice is 0.2%. Higher of 0.2% and 5% will always be 5%. Hence I have written 5% out here. Clear? Now question comes, what should be TCS rate? It is very similar. This is the TCS is always collected by the seller. Again, I need to check whether the seller is having the PAN of the purchaser or not, wherein he is supposed to collect the amount of TCS from the purchaser. If he is having the PAN, again the same thing is to be checked, whether the person is a specified person or not. Specified means non-compliant. In case of non-compliant, we need to check that that particular person is not filing his return of immediately 2 preceding years for which due date has elapsed. Second, his total aggregate TDS or TCS amount in his 26 years is more than 50,000 for both respective immediately preceding years. Every year 50,000. Still he is not filing his return. Hence he is a specified person. In such case, the rate will be 5%. One question might erupt in our mind, how come we know whether his total amount in his 26 years is above 50,000 for both years, and whether he is filing his return or not? Circular number 11 of CBDT has clarified this particular issue, stating that income tax web portal gives you the facility to check. If you have the PAN number, just go put on the PAN number of the respective person. You will come to know whether he comes within the definition of a specified person or not. Not such a big deal. You will be able to know the fact right from the income tax web portal. If it is not a specified person, he's more compliant, regularly filing his return, in such scenario the TCS rate will be 0.1% in the scenario that we are discussing, that is in case of sale of goods above sale of goods. And how is this 5% rate coming? 5% is again, as we discussed earlier, in case of TDS, it is higher of twice the rate of TCS, and 5%, the twice the rate of TCS means 0.2%, and 5%, of course 5% will be higher, hence 5% I am telling in case of a specified person. In case I am supposed to collect TCS, but the PAN of the respective person with whom I am collecting the TCS is not available, in such scenario the rate of TCS shall be 1%. Here we have a change. In case of TDS, if the PAN is not available, it was 5%. Herein it is 1%. Again, the provision says higher of twice the rate of TCS, that is 0.2% and 1%. It will always be higher. 1% will always be higher than 0.2%. Hence, I am telling 1%. This was an attempt from my side to speak in a very non-technical language when TDS provisions will apply and when TCS provisions will apply, and whatever TDS or TCS provisions are applying, at what rate are we supposed to deduct the TDS, or at what rate we are supposed to collect the TCS. I'll be discussing more technical issues in my next discussion. Till then, Jai Hind.